Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Matt Lambrex. I'm obviously a big Leafs fan. For those of you who do know me, hi. So today I decided I was gonna try doing a thing. I love hockey. I'm good at talking about things, I guess. So I thought I'd give it a shot. Maybe try a podcast. It sucks. I only have one angle, and today it's only me. We've kicked around, me and my buddy Devin Bonney, we've kicked around some ideas of doing this throughout the summer. Um, maybe one a week. I want to talk about hockey. I don't know. Me and Dev, we're good at talking about stuff, so that might be something to look that we might do. For now, this is kind of just the beta tests. Just kind of want to see if I can do this. So no, I remember I believe I was listening to 31 Thoughts podcast, Jeff Merrick, Elliot Friedman, great podcast if you haven't checked it out. Um, but I think I don't even know if it was on the podcast, but I heard Jeff Merrick once say, look, um, if you, it's a great place to start, and I thought about it, and it's relatively simple, relatively. You just find a topic, you can talk about it. Anybody can talk about a topic. And I love hockey, so I just thought I'd try it. And who knows, this might end up somewhere. This might end up just being for me. But I don't know. I've kind of always wanted to try it, and yeah, it's just it sucks that it's just me today. It's not ideal, of course, but um, I want to try something new. That's basically it. I wanna try, and see if I can do this and make it a thing. Doesn't matter about the views. Just have fun with it, right? So yeah. So again, I'm Matt Lambrex. I'm 20 years old. I'm born in London, Ontario, but I grew up on a tobacco farm in Strathroy, Ontario. Uh, Go Rockets, go! Um, so now, actually, I'm a student at Wilfrid Laurier University. In my second year, and yeah, so it's been fun. So I don't know. I just thought I'd talk about hockey and give you some of my thoughts. I'm not an expert or anything. It's just I'm just a kid who likes hockey, and I just want to see what happens. So first things first. I want to give a huge shout out to the guys from the Steve Dangle podcast. And Elliot and Jeff. I already mentioned them, but big inspiration for me, kind of just wanting to try and do this. They're great. Steve Dangle podcast. If you haven't heard, the LFRs that Steve does are great. Honestly, as a student here, I look forward. I saw a tweet the other day about the same thing, but every time they put something out, it's great noise to study to in the back. It's great. You know, I need to find more podcasts like Steve Dangle podcast, but I like Steve and the guys just because I don't know. They're fans, right? They don't and they talk like they're fans, and it's authentic and it's real and it's silly, and it works, and they are they're great at what they do. I don't no disrespect to Adam or Jesse or any of those guys. They're professional journalists, is what they say, and I'll mention them a lot probably, but um, I want this to be my show. Um, so, but they're great, and if you haven't seen them, check it out. So, about me, yeah. So, okay, how did I become a hockey fan? So, I remember the first cup run I watched, Oilers Canes. Like I've always played hockey. I played hockey since I was 5 years old. I was never very good at the time. But I remember the first run I watched was the Oilers and Hurricanes in '06. I remember I kind of followed the Olympics that year when Sweden won. Canada was kind of out of it, but Sundin's my guy, as you can see. So you know, I guess that's my dad is on and off again Leafs fan. It's been tough for sure. Again, I'll go back and check Steve's stuff if you want to check that out. But so anyways, so '06, '07 become hockey fan. I remember my dad asked me, or my dad told me, I asked him, I was like, Dad, did I just wake up and be a hockey fan one day? And I know he's mentioned that a couple times, and it's funny. But so some of my greatest hockey memories, that run, the cup run with the Oilers. Yeah, I thought they had that one. Cam Ward was just hot. The whole Rolson thing sucked. My first London Knights game, boy, was that an experience. So I'm an 8-year-old kid at the time. I looked it up on YouTube. The clip was posted 12 years ago, since I'm 20, so math. But so Adam Dennis is playing. I don't know the full roster. I know that Josh Beaulieu was on the Knights, I believe. Adam Dennis is the Knights goaltender. Justin Peters is the Whalers goaltender, and this is my first Knights game. And I'm an 8-year-old kid. I'd never been to an OHL game before, and my uncle Carlos, through work, got some box seats, box tickets. So I'm there watching the game, and he's kind of up in the box. And I remember he always tells me the story that, I ran up to Tio, because in Spanish, as mi mamá, my mom's Honduran, in Spanish, Tio, uncle. So I was like, Tio, there's a fight, and it's a big line brawl, and the goalies go at it, and I guess that's the first live impression of hockey on me. The funny part is actually I'm a Kitchener Rangers fan, even though I grew up in close proximity to London. It's always been odd. All my friends, Knights fans. I owned a Rangers hat. I've gone to games. I'm not quiet about the fact that I don't like the Knights, but the Knights are a good team. The Knights have an unbelievable ability to recruit American players. I don't know. My thoughts on, they're always called the Yankees of the OHL. The Knights are the Yankees of the OHL. And as someone who's grown up and gone to a lot of Knights games, that's pretty fairly true. The facility's beautiful. They always get these players, but as a Rangers fan, I don't know, the Cam Fowler thing. They drafted him, and I don't know too much about that. And I'd have to ask. Josh Brown does stuff for the record here. I know that. Also, Kitchener Rangers, shout out to Mike Farwell. He went to college with my uncle, and I got to meet him actually once. Great man. He met with me before the game. I haven't talked to him in a while. I don't even remember how old I was. I don't remember who they were playing that day. But he does a great job. As you can tell, I'm a big Rangers guy. My first experience with Kitchener, my first OHL game in Kitchener, Jeff Skinner, Gabriel Landeskog, Ryan Murphy. So, you got good players. And the funny part is, out of all those players, my favorite guy on the team was Jeremy Morin. Power forward, American guy, came out of the U.S. development program. I know, who else was there? Maxwell was the goalie. He was a Colorado draft pick. This is pre John Gibson coming to Kitchener, and what a great job he did. It was too bad they couldn't put a run together there, but so yeah, my favorite. I remember getting introduced to the Kitchener Rangers in the Jeff Skinner, Gabriel Landeskog era, and it's just kind of funny that my favorite player turned out to be Jeremy Morin. And honestly, Jeremy Morin, he played well when he was in Kitchener. I'll just pull up his stats here. Jeremy Morin, elite prospects, and he was a second round pick. He was in the Dustin Bufflin trade. I don't know, man. I don't know what happened. Yeah, second round, 2009. So he's 9 years older. So he's 27. He's past his prime. But looking at the stats here, he's 6'1". Okay, 190. So he's 28. So he's 91. He put up numbers of the national development team. He USA World Juniors, the OHL. He was more than a point per game in his 1 year. Okay, so that was the 09-10 season, if I'm correct, that he was there. So yeah, I would have been 12, 11 years old. But it was just, he played in the NHL. He had a cup of coffee. He did okay in the AHL. He was always a decent player. Just he never found his niche. And I guess, I don't know, he was in the Bufflin trade. It's too bad. I remember I was so happy when the Leafs picked him up because I was like, wow, he used to be one of my faves. But at that point, you kind of knew what he was. Right now, by the looks of things, the NBL I don't even know what league that is. He's played. So Jeremy Morin's had a weird year this year. So he's played 3 games in the KHL. Stat line of all zeros. He played 2 games in the ECHL with 1 point. HPK of La Liga in Finland, 4.7 games. Bern played 1 game in Switzerland. And the NBL. I'm not sure what league this is, so the NBL. But that's, geez, five different leagues. Not even 5 different teams. 5 different leagues in one season. That's tough. Okay, so it's another. The NBL is a Swiss league. Let's see. Just trying to see if there's any names I know in this list here of the scoring leaders. I see a lot of Canadian guys. Honestly, there's nobody here that I really notice. Swiss guys, Ryan Hayes, American. Yeah, nobody that I really honestly can say that Tim Stapleton. I know him. Tim Stapleton. Wow, that's a name. If that's who I think it is. I could be wrong, however. No, this could be it. So, I could be incorrect here. Tim Stapleton is related to Pat Stapleton. Okay, so Pat Stapleton. So Pat Stapleton is from my neck of the woods, actually. He spoke at a high school dinner of mine. So, trying to see if this is. So okay, okay, so not sure if they are related, but anyways, talk about Pat Stapleton. Pat Stapleton's from Strathroy, so that's my hometown. So Derek Mather's from there, Nathan Beaulieu. So we've had some pretty good players come out of the Rockets, or not the Rockets, but Strathroy. The hometown team is the Rockets. Man, when I was a kid, it's the dream, playing junior B hockey. Obviously, I'm doing a podcast, I'm not playing hockey, so that tells you how good I was. So yeah, but I remember my dad's friend's son, and I forget, Pete Claver. Pete Claver is my dad's friend. And shout out to their Uncle Tony too, great guy. I love Tony. Tony was so nice to me when I was a kid. But so Pete's son is Jeremy Claver. So Jeremy Claver captained the Rockets to their only Sutherland Cup appearance. He scored the Game 7 winner in their final game to get to the Sutherland Cup. And I just remember, it was weird. I always played forward, but the Claver and the McNeil brothers, who ironically they're my neighbors, I never really met Pat. He was the first overall pick in the OHL draft, 04 or 05, I believe, Saginaw. Drafted by the Capitals, 4th round. He was a good AHL player. Just you never knew what it would. He's not a high pick, and there's a difference between being a good AHL player and a good NHL player, and I guess Kipper and those guys that are more have more expertise would probably be able to point that out a little more than I would. But yeah, like he went over to Germany. He did well. See if I can pull up his stats as well. Patrick McNeil. His brother Mitch, I know, played in Holland, and I met Mitch a couple times at the Rockets games, and great guys, and like they're both of them. It was just kind of cool, your neighbor. You grow up, and it's kind of a little feather in the cap. My neighbor plays for in the NHL. My neighbor plays in the AHL. He's Calder Cup winner, and so I know my cousins, because they live two doors down, and my cousins are my neighbors as well. And my cousins would skate with them, and that's a story you can say, right? You skated with a guy that was drafted in the NHL, and I know I have friends in Toronto and Oakville, and now that I'm in school, that you throw a stone and you meet somebody who's a great athlete. But for me, small tobacco town kid, I don't know, it was really cool. So I have Patrick McNeil's stats here. So he's played in Germany. He's getting older. He's 4th round pick, 05, so he's 31 now. 8 points, 37 games, okay. I don't know how his team's doing. ERC Engelstadt. His first year in Germany looks pretty good. He had 39 points, 52 games. 42 penalty minutes. I remember he was on. He's played 3 games for Team Canada. I know they played in a tournament in Russia, I believe. So he played 3 games, so that's cool. But yeah, he played 3 years in Saginaw. He was point per game in 2 of those 3 seasons, aside from his rookie year. Just trying to see. I know he was captain in his last season. His best season in the AHL, 35 points, 62 games, 36 penalty minutes, plus 20. So, oh, no, sorry. 11-12 AHL, 71 games, 10 goals, 31 assists, 41 points, 32 penalty minutes. Okay, so he was a -8 that year, but his point total was the best. I know some people consider plus minus a garbage stat, and as someone who tracks fantasy hockey, it can be a very frustrating stat for sure. But speaking of fantasy hockey, the Rookie of the Year, it's a tough race. I can say honestly that at one point or another, I'd say throw Kyle Connor into the top 5, but I'd say that 3 of the top 5 candidates for Rookie of the Year I had on my fantasy team at one point. So my top 5: Keller, Barzal, Besser, McAvoy, Connor. Now, that's my top 5. I don't think Kyle Connor is going to win it. He's been hot lately. Of course, it helps that the Jets are unreal. But man, it's going to be tough to take it away from Barzal, honestly. And Barzal is the one I didn't have on my fantasy team, actually. I had Keller, I have McAvoy. I have McAvoy and Keller. I traded Brock Besser. Probably not the smartest GMing decision ever. But so Charlie McAvoy flies under the radar to me. So, I have him on my fantasy team. He puts up a great amount of hits. He's a decent point getter. He's not Erik Karlsson, but he lays hits. He's solid. I believe ESPN had him ranked. The rankings are kind of stupid, but they had him ranked like 20th or something out of all defensemen. I don't even know what his penalty minutes are, but he's hurt right now, so that definitely doesn't help his cause. Besser, the points per game average on Besser is it's great, but Vancouver's a non-playoff team. I guess all the teams but Winnipeg are. I'll pull up Besser stats. I know why I got rid of Brock Besser. Okay, so I got rid of Brock Besser because my theory was, he's a college guy, and the college guy, the schedule is, it's a lot shorter. It's not an NHL grind. It's not the travel. Obviously, I underestimated Brock Besser. Let's just see here. So this year, 55 points in 62 games. I just want to pull up Barzal as well. Matthew Barzal. It's not Barzal. And again, I apologize to you guys. I know I feel like this is really dry. I don't even know. Like I said, this might just end up on my computer, but I want to try it. So, ideally, there's someone else here. I know. Bear with me. But okay, so Matt Barzal for sure. So Matt Barzal this year, 56.77 games. So, sorry. No, 58 assists. Wow. Yeah, wow. Okay, give it to Matt Barzal, man. He's more than a point per game. There's just the speed that guy has, and hate to say it, man, but wow, the Oilers, man. Matt Barzal and Connor McDavid. I know you use the argument that where would have you slotted him in? You only have so many minutes to run. I get that, but wow, that looks like a bad deal on Chiarelli, and I know he's had a bunch of those, and he can't really afford to continuously have those. So, speaking of the Canucks, one of my brothers, Zach, big Canucks fan. He was a Longo guy for the longest time. I do remember that, I remember I hated Luongo. I hated Roberto Luongo because my brother hated him. And no, it was really funny. Well, not funny, but as a Leafs fan, there's always those teams you hate. I personally, okay, I hated Montreal. I hated Ottawa. And I had a hate on for Detroit. The original six, I hated Detroit. When they won the cup, I remember my first swear, or not my first swear, but one of my first big swears in front of my mom. I remember Detroit won the Stanley Cup, Zetterberg holding the Conn Smythe, and my mom's there. I'd said it in front of my dad, and my dad's, my dad. My dad's a beauty, he doesn't give a shit. And he's sitting there, I don't know, probably reading his agricultural news, sipping on his good old beer. And, so my mom, I don't know where she had been, but she hadn't been in the room. I know I'm getting way off from the Luongo, just kind of telling my Red Wings story, but, so my mom wasn't there the first time I had said it, but I'd said it in front of my dad. He didn't say anything, so I'm like, all right, I'm good for this. So mom comes back, the Red Wings win, so I'm pissed as a Leafs fan. I remember, and I was cheering for Sid. It's different now, because now I want the Leafs to dethrone the Pens, but at that time, the Leafs were the Leafs, and I didn't want the Red Wings to win, so I'm cheering for the Penguins. And Zetterberg wins a Conn Smythe, and I remember I dropped the word, and my mom just lost it on me. And it was really funny, but I remember I was so upset I didn't get to watch the cup get raised. And I think that's the first year since that 06 run, the Hurricanes and Oilers, when I kind of started watching hockey, that the first time I didn't see the cup get raised. And it's just kind of a funny story that it was one of my first big swears, but I digress from that. So anyways, the three teams that I always hated growing up, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit. So my brother Zach, and me and my brother, when we were kids, we did not get along at all. We're best friends now, which is great. But, so me and my brother, he's a big Luongo guy. I have an aunt that lives in Vancouver, and it's his godmother, so she would always send him, like, the Luongo t-shirts. My brother got hats. So he's a Vancouver guy. And he's my brother. We don't always get along, so I can't cheer. I cannot possibly cheer for Vancouver. I can't do it. I can't. And Luongo's his guy, so I have to, even though he's good, I have to have an outright hatred. I have to say that I dislike this guy. And at first I did. He seemed like an arrogant ass. And my dad even said the same thing. He seems arrogant. And my perception about Luongo has changed. And I can tell you it wasn't his play. Twitter. He is one of the funniest, most self-depreciating, sarcastic people you will meet on Twitter. And if you're not following him, at Strombone1, I believe it is, he's funny. And honestly, the Parkland thing, I'm not going to get political about that. But I thought that was I looked at that and I was like, you know what? I don't hate this guy anymore. He's a good player. Like he once said, his contract sucks. And there's a lot of hate for that. The choking thing in Vancouver. I'm still happy they lost. My brother didn't get the benefit of the doubt. Even though, looking back, it was against the hated Bruins. And the big collapse definitely stung. That one hurt too. I remember watching that one with my TO, and he was telling me, I remember it was the Leafs winning 4-1, and Boston scored the second goal that they had. He's like, and he looks over, and he's going to be like, they're going to blow it. And I just said, shut up. We don't have to go there. There's a couple other things I wanted to talk about. Let me just grab my page here. So, the Leafs, there's the big three, and then there's the off-season three. And the big debate is, how are you going to fit those pieces together when the contracts come up? So, James Van Riemsdyk, I know, is signed, is the big one. James Van Riemsdyk is the guy that everybody wants. James Van Riemsdyk is the guy that, in an ideal world, you keep. When there's no cap, you keep James Van Riemsdyk, because James Van Riemsdyk, it's beaten to death, but you watch JVR play. He's great in front of the net. He does that little thing where he throws it between his legs. He battles. He's big. Obviously, again, I'm just going off what I've heard before. This is nothing new, but with his size, you'd like him to throw his weight around a little more, which is fine. But he is what he is at this point. He's been in the league for a long time. You're not gonna, what you see is what you get. And 75 points. Okay, just have to go Hockey DB. I'll go to Elite Prospects instead. Elite prospects, James Van Riemsdyk. But I know it's this surge. It's great for now. I think not trading James Van Riemsdyk was the right choice because we're here to win now as the Leafs. Like we're not. You don't want to go backwards, right? I think unless there's, I think Gretzky was traded. There's always a deal to be had, but I think JVR is a piece that the Leafs don't have. Leo's tough because Leo is built for the playoffs, in my opinion. Leo Komarov, he hits, he ridiculous amount of hits. It just, man, his offense this year has not been good. And I love Andreas Johnson, but it's like, who do you put in the lineup? Who do you throw in that lineup to take Andreas Johnson out? Like, I watched the game against Detroit on Saturday, and I don't know if he got any points or not, but man, that fourth line looked good. Him, Kapanen, and Plekanec, who I'm kind of 0 points. That it's a little concerning. I don't like the fact that he's a Habs lifer, and it was kind of hinted at that he wants to go back. So I'm not a big fan of that. But the guy can play, and that fourth line has been effective, despite the fact that Plekanec hasn't gotten any points yet. But the speed, man, that speed. Kapanen, I don't know who you take out of that lineup. Like, you already have Martin gone, and you gotta feel for the guy. He's done everything he's been asked. He wants to play. It's tough seeing him with this team after this season. Same with JVR, man. Again, for different reasons. Leo, I don't know if you can get that one cheap, but I know that his current contract isn't, with what he's getting paid right now. I know that you would tend to expect just Leo Komarov on cap friendly. Leo Komarov. Okay, so Leo on cap friendly here. And again, don't get me wrong, I love Uncle Leo to death, man. But okay, so he's making 2.95. Accumulated, that's 2.775. Okay, so he's doing okay. For himself there, I guess. I'm just trying to see this year. Ooh, that's an ugly stat line. At least points wise. So 19 points. So that's tough. I think unless Leo's willing to take a pay cut, but even then, do you really need Leo? I mean, there's this talk of Grundstrom coming up from the minors. To be quite honest, I haven't seen too much of him. But what I've heard is promising. I think Andreas Johnson's here to stay. You can't get rid of him. You can't. And Babs loves him. He's fast. He's excited. He makes things happen. And as a fan, and as someone who, I don't consider myself having the greatest hockey IQ. I think it was a big fallback for, when I played. But as someone who watches the game, and I'm a fan. I love hockey. But I'll admit, like, my hockey IQ, there's people out there better than me. But even as someone who, their hockey IQ, the way they see forechecks and defensive schemes, even as someone who doesn't, just the excitement factor on Andreas Johnsson is unbelievable. Like, this kid just makes these around the net. He's getting breakaways. He's feisty. Man, I don't know. I like him. I like him a lot. And I don't think you can take that out. I think JVR out of the three is the one you'd want to keep. But I think the most realistic to keep is probably Bozy, if he takes a pay cut just because he's a centerman. Bozy, again, he is what he is. He's not a first line center. We found that out when he was with Phil. Kind of, I guess. They were an offensive first line. And I'm not going to compare Bozak to Matthews because that's just ridiculous. But, I think Tyler Bozak's the one you got to keep, if anything. Even in a depth position, I guess. It depends what role you give him. I know the Leafs aren't happy with Moore. Babs doesn't seem to like him very much. Plekanec, I don't think is staying. I'll just throw it out there. I don't know if, because I don't really know what Tyler's role is, but could he play that? See, if you go by that logic, that Bozak could be a fourth line center next year, well, we have to assume that Kapanen and Johnsson aren't going to be fourth liners next year, especially Kapanen. There's no way. There's no way Kapanen, he can play that way, and I think that's what makes him very enticing to a lot of people, that he uses his speed to he accepts the checking role, and he uses his speed well in the checking role, but he's more than that. He's got a wicked release. He can score. He's a player. He can do more than what his role is. It's just the same debate as when Marner was on the fourth line. You were like, well, Mitch Marner's not a fourth line player, and everybody knew that. Everybody knew Mitch Marner wasn't a fourth line player. Everybody knew it was a temporary thing. And I think this Johnsson and Kapanen, it's a temporary thing. They're too good to be on the fourth line for the entirety of. Well, I won't say the entirety of the career, because the chances of that are very unlikely. But they're good young players, and at some point, I don't get an all armchair GM, but you have to look at you have to develop these guys, because if you're developing them into a fourth line guy, if you're if they got a second line skill set, but you develop why don't you develop them into a second? Even then, you can turn. I'm not saying trade Kapanen or Johnsson. No, of course not. But if you can develop that entity, and you could, I'm in economics, I suck at it, but you can get return on investment, man. And I just think there's JVR. In a way, he's played himself out. I'd say both him and Komarov have kind of played themselves out, but in two different aspects. JVR has played himself out in the sense that he's played so well that the Leafs, in all likelihood, cannot afford him. And I know JVR wants to stay, and I know he's great here, but the money in the term has to make sense. It's just, we have Matthews, the big three, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and you have to remember how you're going to pay those guys. I've heard I don't know. I don't know too much of the argument of the Marleau money could have been JVR's. I kind of fall into that camp a little. Although I don't know too much about it, and I know the guys on Steve Dangle podcast, and I know they want Adam dropped a little tidbit about that at the end of the episode yesterday. So maybe that'd be something. I'm looking forward to that one. They're always bangers. Same with, I know they talk about it too. Headlines Saturday Night Lights bangers. But JVR has played himself out because he's played so well. But I think Komarov, unless he's willing to take a pay cut, which Leo might. Leo has shown that he can do it, and I think Babs likes him, but I think Leo can be situated into a fourth line role. So maybe it's not Bozak. Maybe out of the three of them, it's Leo. But Leo, there's no way he's making $2.9 next year with the Leafs anyways. There's no way he's making more than that. I don't know, man. I'd hate to see Bozy go, just because he's been there so long. And I remember his first goal on Chris Prong. I believe it was Chris Prong in the Flyers, and it was great. And he's been nothing but loyal. I hate to see him go. But again, if you're slotting Bozy into that fourth line role, he's not the most defensive center in the world. We've known that. That line with him, JVR, Marner, that they had for a while there at the beginning of the year, and they had last year, it struggles defensive in their own zone. But what do? They're power play guys. So I think at the right price, Bozy, and I don't think it sucks, and I hate to say it, but I don't think JVR. We can't afford him, man. He's played himself out with this last little binge he's been on. Just want to look up his captain as well. James Van Riemsdyk. Okay. Here we go. James Van Riemsdyk. So he's making 4. Okay, so he's on a pretty friendly one, and I knew it was pretty friendly. So he's on a 4.25. He's on a 4.25. He's 28 years old. So he's gonna get paid. So he signed. Okay, so he signed it at 6 years, and he signed it with the Flyers. So he's had a modified no trade clause the last 2 years, which is fine. He was good with the Leafs. He's been a consistent guy with the Leafs, and I think that's what'll make him sad to go, because he's been here for so long, and he's been a guy who, again, he was what he was, but he's been relatively consistent. And him and Morgan, I think, more so James, because James was in the Boston game. Same with Tyler, same with Naz. But James has been relatively consistent in what production he brings. And you're paying for consistency, I think, with James. This year, he's just been playing unbelievable, though. 34 goals, 18 assists, 52. So he's down from last year, but he has more goals. But what do you do in the NHL? You pay for goals. You need guys that can score. And it's, again, I don't know what Matthews is going to be McDavid money. Nylander, I guess maybe Draisaitl would be sort of comparable. I guess we'll wait and see. Mitch he's gonna be up too, and then you got to think, I think it's 2-3 years down the road, you got Morgan and Naz coming back up again, so you really got a budget, and I think Lou or Kyle Dubas, whoever takes over the job, and I don't know, the sounds of it's always been Dubas, but I digress. But I think that JVR is gone for sure. An expanded role to Cappy and Janssen, and yeah, that's that. Okay, what else did I want to talk about today? So high school. I want to get this out. I'm a high school ex-high school hockey player, obviously. Small school. We're only single A school. Lost in Wausau South that year. If you ask me, we should have won. But so I'm a high school hockey player, and this is kind of a question. I thought when I was playing, and I pondered it before, why can't high school hockey in, I don't know, Canada, Ontario, or where I was from, because I know in Toronto maybe it's a little bigger, maybe it's just because I'm from a small town, but these towns in Minnesota, you see the Minnesota hockey tournament, and it's great, it's so great, and the skill level is probably, I don't know, I've never seen a live Minnesota hockey game, and I know Bauer was covering it, but just the fanfare, man. I don't know if that's a culture thing with the States, because you see it in football too. Here at Laurier, yeah, like I went to a soccer game once, and there's not many people, and I know I'm partially to blame for that because I should go to more games. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Like if I always thought, in high school hockey, like I always treated it like that was the pros for me. That was wherever you were, like. I don't know. I was happy there, and I kind of felt like, we were really like it felt like you were in school. It felt like a college team. It's just without the crowds, and I really wish that we had that. It would have been so cool, honestly. And I don't know. I'm posing a question. To whoever watches this, I mean, if you have an answer to that, for me actually, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, I'm a high school hockey guy. I played, 3 years, was assistant captain in my final year. Again, I'm not going to say it was the best. Very much a grinder type. But, no, if anyone, it's always kind of a thing I've wondered. And I guess that's my question of the day is, what is other than skill, and you could argue that there are high schools in Ontario that would beat some high schools in Minnesota. So I'm not going to go as far as to say that the skill set in Minnesota is, head and shoulders above the skill set in Ontario, because Ontario puts out hell hockey players. It's more AAA than high school hockey players. And maybe that's honestly, hey, maybe I just answered my own question. Maybe it's more AAA guys in Ontario that get more the fanfare, or they're starting to. I know the I want to say RBC Cup, but I could be wrong. There's the TELUS Cup. I know Don Cherry just did a thing on Coach's Corner. And he knows all these midget guys before they're even big. So, yeah, like maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the AAA. The system there's different. Whenever I was a kid, I always thought, college or the OHL. And for me, it was always like, I want to go to college, because that would always be so sick. You're living with your best friend, your teammates, your best friends. You're going to classes together. You're going to parties together. And man, it would have been so sick to be a varsity athlete. I'm not that athletic at all. But it still would have been hella cool. I know we're getting short for time, and I gotta run to class actually. But so just to kind of wrap it up, I kind of talked. The timer's getting close to 40, but surprised I talked that long. Surprised that I didn't get bored of my own voice, to be honest with you. So thank you very much for watching this video. Again, I don't know if I'm going to put it on YouTube. I don't know if it's just going to sit on my computer. I don't know if might be converted into audio file. I'm going to use, again, as I've stolen everything from Steve Dangle and the guys. If you like this video, click like. If you'd like to subscribe, subscribe. Again, I'm just a 20-year-old kid who likes hockey, and something I wanted to try. And who knows? Like I want to talk. I want to try to do one a week. Again, if I'm open to feedback. If there's anyone that would like to be on this with me, or if you guys would rather it just be audio and not YouTube, again, I'm gonna have to roll back the tape and see how annoying my voice is. And I know I didn't tell many jokes today, but it's kind of hard to tell jokes with yourself. I know you guys are here. I told about my swear. That was kind of funny. More funny stories next time I have a co-host, I guess. But this is for a first run. I'm pretty happy with it, and no, you guys let me know. And thank you very much for watching. And again, if you like this video, click subscribe if you like, and go Leafs go. And it's great to be a Laurier Golden Hawk.